Morning, everybody. This is Marion. Now, that's probably backwards. Apologies about that. I am Marion Grobb Finkelstein, even though that says it backwards. And I am going to be talking about today what you might be doing that is sabotaging your goals and your communication. Now, what I'm about to tell you, I hesitated whether I should talk about this topic because some people will take it out of context and will whip themselves, and that most certainly is not the intent. What I want to talk about is looking at how you communicate and things that you might be doing slightly differently that will get you a better result. If you've ever had a communication, and I'm sure you have, where it didn't quite go the way that you had hoped, or maybe it's not even a communication, maybe it's a life situation where the outcome wasn't exactly what you expected. Welcome to the human race. We all have situations like that. And the reason why I hesitated talking to you about that this morning is because I don't want you to whip yourself. This is not about guilt or regret or wondering what you could have done that you're absolutely whipping yourself. It's not about that at all. It's about just stepping back and objectively looking at your situation. Hey, Patricia or Trisha, nice to see you. If you're online, let me know. Give me a little like, give me a little comment. I think I will be able to see your comments. I'm not sure. This is kind of weird. Anyways, write your comments there. I most certainly will respond after the fact if I can't see them now. So what I want to talk about is what are you doing to mess up your goals? Hey, Patricia, thank you. I can see your comment. Bravo. Excellent. I wanted to talk to you about what are you doing to mess up your goals and your communications. And I want you to do it without guilt or regret. So this is how we're going to move forward. This is what we're going to do. I want you right now to think of a situation where you had an outcome that really wasn't great. Or maybe you're living it right now. Maybe you're going through a difficult situation with a boss that isn't great, or some employees that you just don't connect with, or maybe there's an incredibly difficult client out there that you're just butting heads with and it's not working out. Think of somebody in your life, whether it's your work life or, it might even be your personal life, and what's happening with that communication that it's just not quite going the way that you want it to. Now I want you to step back and think about, from your viewpoint, what is it that your role is in perpetuating that situation? Now, this is the part that I was hesitant to tell you about because it's not about pointing fingers. It's not about feeling blame and guilt. It's simply about putting on your non-emotional, objective hat and looking back and asking yourself, what is it that you're doing that could be possibly, maybe not, contributing to your situation? So let me give you an example. This is just a personal example that happened yesterday, and my husband often listens to these, and this one is about him and me, and it really does demonstrate how the intent might not manifest itself in the actions. We were driving along the road to vote, and all of a sudden he stopped the car. Traffic was going this way. That's where we were. Traffic was coming this way, and he stopped the car. And I looked up and got panicky and said, "What are you doing? Why are you stopping?" And when I look at that situation, how did I respond? What was my role in getting that situation elevated? It wasn't good. We're all human. And so my husband, Steve, responded by, "I'm stopping because our turn is right there, and I wasn't quite sure where it was, and it came up faster, so I didn't get a chance to put on my signal." Like, what's the big deal, Marion, right? And I felt really kind of like I had overreacted. So in that situation, my role was, maybe I overreacted. He wasn't doing anything wrong, right? Now, my homework on that, here's what I want you to do is think about your situation. How is it that you reacted, and why did you react that way? Now, in my case, I've been in a couple car accidents, so I am a nervous passenger. And when I'm a passenger, passengers feel the motion in a car more than a driver does. That's why kids who get motion sick, they tell you to put their hand on the steering wheel so that they can feel the motion of the car, or they won't feel the motion of the car in the same way as if they're a passenger. So as a passenger, I am nervous. That's my homework. That was my role. I need to clean up that piece and be a little more calm when I'm in the car. And I'm just being real and raw here. That's the real Marion. And I could have handled that communication differently. So think about your situation. Did you overreact in an office situation? Did you overreact with a client or with a family member, with a child, with a spouse? Why did you react that way? Again, not in pointing fingers, not in assigning guilt or regret in any way whatsoever, just objectively looking at the situation as to what was your role. That's the key thing. What was your role, and how did you, knowingly or unknowingly, contribute to the outcome that wasn't so great? That's the piece. Let me give you another example. Suppose you have a boss, and the boss keeps you waiting outside the office all the time, and you're there, and by the time you get in to see him or her, you're kind of spinning because, gee, they've kept you waiting, and you're itchy to get back to your office and your desk, and you've got 1,000 things to do. Your pile is very high. So by the time you get to see the boss, you're not really focused. So the interaction between you doesn't go so well, perhaps. What was your role in that? Well, it was the boss who kept you waiting, right? But maybe your role was, you know that this is a habit of the boss, be it good or not good. And so maybe your role was you fed into your own anxiety. You fed into your mind wandering elsewhere. So when you went to communicate with them, you weren't really as focused as you could be. Now, if I'm mentioning anything that rings a bell with you, give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, give me some feedback on if any of this resonates with you, if any of it sounds like, yeah, you know what, I kind of relate to what Marion is saying here. I get it. And grab your coffee, because we're having coffee together. Coffee, tea, water, whatever your beverage of choice, because I'm a big person for well, 5'2", I'm really not that big, but I'm a big person for connecting over coffee. So think about your situation and how you can apply what I'm talking about right now. Excellent, thumbs up, love that. Excellent. Adjusting our expectations is often important. Thank you, Tricia. Absolutely right. So what are you doing to control your expectations and to control your role in the interaction? Because when you're having an interaction, you're really doing it with three people. One is you're doing it with the other person, you're doing it with yourself, and they're doing the interaction with you. So it's your self-talk and how you're exchanging with them as well. So look at any situation, whatever your goal might be, what was your role in sabotaging that goal, and do it in a non-judgmental way. Another example might be in a medical situation where perhaps you're going through a medical challenge right now, and that goal is to be healthy. Well, what was your goal? What was your role in creating that medical situation? It might not have been anything that you did. This is why it's so important to examine the situation, not from a viewpoint of guilt and regret, but simply objectively to step back. And perhaps your role was you didn't respond fast enough. Perhaps you didn't investigate options fast enough. Perhaps you weren't listening to your body enough to get those messages while it was whispering before it had to shout. Now transfer that to in the workplace situation. What is happening in the workplace where the communication isn't working out quite the way that you had hoped it would? Is it that maybe you're not quite connecting with that person because you haven't stepped back and looked at how do they want me to communicate? What is their communication style? What's going to work for them so that I can reach out in a way that will resonate with them? And maybe that was your role. Maybe you didn't do the homework. Maybe you didn't step back and think, how do I appear to this other person? What was your role in that? So I'm going to leave you today with a couple reminders of what we talked about. Next time you're encountering a difficult situation or you're encountering a goal that for whatever reason you haven't met, or a challenging situation that's really tough that you are currently living, or one that you want to look at retrospectively, discover what is it that your role was in it. In the case of communication, discover how they want to communicate. Discover how you look and sound and what people's reactions are in the way that you communicate. Take responsibility for that role. Discover yourself a little more. Yes, self-talk and self-reflection is important. Absolutely right. I'm not talking about navel gazing. I'm talking about just stepping back objectively and consider the other person's perspective as well. How is it that you appear and sound to them? People can't read our minds. They can't read our intention. They can only read our behavior. I always say people can't read your mind. They can only read your actions. So how is it that you're appearing? Take responsibility for that piece. And what are the pieces that maybe, and we're going to be looking at this piece later on another video, what are some of the pieces that you might be able to tweak and change? That's the good news. When you define your role in a difficult situation, whatever it might be, whatever it is that you might have done or not done that contributed to an outcome that you didn't like, define what your role might have been in that. And once you do that, it's not about assigning blame. It's about assigning responsibility. And the good news is, once you do that, now you have the keys to move forward, because now you know some of the things that you and you alone control and can change. So taking responsibility is a good thing. Do it without guilt or blame, and do it without assigning guilt or blame to the other person. Do it objectively, and that absolutely will help you as you move forward. What I'm giving you right now, just a little snippet, is going to be incorporated in a book that I'm working on called The Finkelstein Factor: What to Do When Things Go Wrong, ... because you know they will. Sigh. That's going to be the name of it. And I'm going to be giving you little snippets of that book as I move along. And I really appreciate your comments on some of the things that I'm saying. And I'm going to be looking for real life examples. So if you don't want to post them, private message me and I will respond to you, whether it's including them in my book anonymously or somehow changing the details so nobody can be identified. Appreciate you checking in with me, and I appreciate you spending coffee time with me. And until we see each other again, I am still Marion Grobb Finkelstein, and you are you. Having a great day, I hope, and I wish for you better communication, better business, better life. Cheers, everybody.